do we get calcium in the diet? Where does it come from? So we're really talking about sources. You know, there's a big kind of myth about the sources of calcium being that if you don't get dairy in your diet, then you're somehow not going to get adequate calcium. That's a huge myth. You don't need dairy in order to get calcium. Dairy is a rich source of calcium, but so many of you listening tonight are dairy sensitive, dairy intolerant, don't do well with the type of dairy that's being produced on commercial farms in the U.S., where we have massive hormones, massive chemicals, massive stress on the animals being fed tons of grain with genetically modified pesticides all in them, and you're choosing to not use dairy because the quality of the dairy is not good. And then we have the processing of the dairy, things like meat glue found in cheeses and yogurts and other things that can destroy or damage the gut lining. So if you're not choosing dairy as a source for calcium, don't panic. Like, that's probably one of the top questions I get in my clinic is, oh, what am I going to get for my calcium if I don't use dairy? So let's talk about what other food sources are rich in calcium. So number one, bone broth. Very rich. Now, I'm not talking about the stuff you buy at the grocery store that's almost like watered down broth. I'm talking about the thick stuff where you put it in the pressure pot and you're cooking and softening those bones, and all those minerals are leaching out of the bone into the broth itself. It's a great source of calcium if you do it right, if you have a nice, dense, rich version of bone broth. Number two, another great place, sardines. Generally sardines and really salmon, especially if you're buying them in the can or in the packets where they've been pressure cooked, because the bone's in them. And you get lots of that fish bone that you won't choke on, right? Because it's been pressure cooked, so it's very soft, it's very mealy, and it can be consumed very easy. But it's a great, great source of calcium in the diet. Now, some of you may be vegan or vegetarian and saying, hey, I can't really do either one of those or don't want to do any one of those. Well, understand there are lots of vegan sources of calcium as well, and one of the greatest are your cruciferous vegetables. And so what do I mean by cruciferous? Your broccoli, your cauliflower, your cabbage, your bok choy. Like, these are really great sources of calcium, and these sources, particularly the cruciferous, don't come with the oxalates. So, for example, if you're getting, because there are a couple of other sources, vegetarian-based sources of calcium, and almonds, and then other greens, dark green leafies, particularly, spinach, mustard green, beet green. Those are great sources, but the green leafies have a lot of oxalate in them, and oxalate can serve as a binding agent and reduces the absorption of calcium. So foods that are high in oxalate generally are not necessarily the absolute best choice for calcium in your diet, and some of you may be oxalate sensitive too, right? So green leafy, but the cruciferous don't have the oxalates, so these are the ones that you can consume. You don't have to worry so much about the oxalate quantity reducing calcium absorption, but a great source of calcium. Almonds, a great source of calcium. Another really good one, if you haven't added this to your diet, is figs. Figs are another great plant-based source of calcium that can be very, very effective at adding to your diet. So again, those food sources, really solid. None of them are dairy. You could put dairy on the list if you were, using dairy that was non-processed, that was raw from animals that were grass pasture-raised and weren't being fed the hormones or the chemically loaded food, or being locked up in small bins and being forced to produce milk, many, many hours of their day, where they run the risk of infection and other problems in that dairy. So these are great sources of calcium. You can put those into your diet. You shouldn't have any trouble at all with maintaining solid, adequate levels of calcium. Hey, and if you missed the earlier part of this series, click right here so you can go back and get caught up. The information there might be critical to helping you on your path to better health. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe for updates below. Have a great day.